All right. Okay, so drip irrigation, that's what we're gonna talk about today. No gardening, no planting, drip irrigation, because we actually are about to plant this bed, but I wanna do something prior to doing that because we are moving, but I do wanna talk about the drip irrigation, the benefits of drip irrigation, because there was a lot of benefits to drip irrigation here. A lot of times you wanna do drip irrigation because you wanna spend less time watering in the garden. Well, not much the case for us because we actually enjoy coming out here and watering a lot of the plants that we have in the garden. But the reason we had drip irrigation up here was because it's a slope. And we did have some other things on drip irrigation. It does save some time, but because it's a slope, you know, it's kind of painful sometimes to walk up and down, having to water it, drag a water hose to do it. So drip irrigation was really beneficial for us to have up here. Now, we are going to continue using drip irrigation because we plan on moving to a hotter climate in Texas, where it's going to be way more beneficial than just not spending time in the garden, but it's going to be more beneficial to those plants that need the water in the garden. So that's one of the reasons why I want to talk about drip irrigation as I start to rip this one out, because we're not going to utilize this. We're only going to plant some stuff in here and maybe have it for about a month and a half to 2 months before we start getting rid of some of that stuff and possibly give some of those plants away, or who knows what we're gonna do with them just yet. But I do wanna talk about this drip irrigation before I rip it out. So I'm gonna go ahead and start taking some of this drip irrigation out and talk to you about what the benefits were and what I actually used in this bed up here, because it was a slope and it made it that much more easier. We also have drip irrigation in some containers as well that was way more beneficial because of the hot sun that hits the area up there on the house. It tends to dry out those containers a lot faster. So the drip irrigation actually helps with that. So let's go ahead and go up there to where the containers are so I can show you exactly what I was doing up there, and then I'll continue to move along here and take the rest of this stuff out. Okay, so I was gonna work my way up to the top of the steps, so I wanted to show you guys, since I'm already down here, I want to show you guys these containers here that we did run some drip to. Now, these plants are a little bit at the end of the life cycle, not necessarily their life cycle, but these were some early spring planted containers and they're starting to dry out a little bit. We're gonna replant these with some other plants as well, but we'll get this cleaned up later on, maybe today or tomorrow after we plant up this bed. But I wanna show you guys with this container here, I actually ran some drip line and I used these right here. These are some adapters, and these actually are like sprinkler heads, or small sprinkler heads. It creates a circle bubble, and we actually run this one here because these pots dry out very, very fast when the sun hits here, and they sit partially on concrete here, so we don't want them to dry out faster. So we did use this here, and this drip line is just connected to one of the main lines that's up on top there. And like I said, I'll go up there and show you guys exactly how it's connected up there, but this is mainly what I use. Now for these containers, this was very beneficial because we have all sorts of plants here, some that are drought tolerant, some that some years that plants that required a lot of water. For instance, we had some Prince Tuts up here that required a lot of water. So this is beneficial because you can twist it and untwist it to regulate how much water actually comes out throughout the day. And you'll see when you buy these instructions of how many gallons per hour actually come out of this. And we don't run it for a whole hour. We normally run it for about 15 to 20 minutes because it does get plenty of water and the ground does soak up plenty here. Especially these containers, you'll start to see the water come out from the bottom, and that's when you know they're getting fully watered. And when we have that drip irrigation on, when we start to see the water, I can always come out here and twist these, turn them off, and let the rest of the garden get watered. Now, I did forget to mention that not just this bed here, but we had the whole garden on drip. We had the side garden on drip, the back garden on drip, and those were just in case of emergencies when we weren't able to water everything all at once, or we just wanted to one day, you know, take a break, turn it on, and let everything get watered. So those are some of the few benefits, is, you know, saving some time, making sure your stuff doesn't get dried out. Let's go ahead and head up top real quick, and I'll show you guys exactly what's up there. Okay, so I'm at the top here of the steps by the front door, and as you can imagine, we have this black door, and then we have some black containers. You can imagine how much heat is actually generated in this area. So drip irrigation is highly, highly beneficial to an area that gets a lot of heat. Much like down there, we get a lot more heat here because it reflects off this black door, and it just starts to radiate heat all around this area. So having drip irrigation was very beneficial over here. So I'm gonna start to pull this out because, like I said, we're no longer using this, and I want to show you guys what I actually have here. So this is the adapter, this is the regulator that goes right into the faucet there, and it runs through here. It has a black backflow prevention as well. It has a screen to catch any debris or anything that comes through there. But this connects easily to here. This is how we ran it basically. You buy some of this line and it connects to this adapter here. Now, one of the things that you can do, and I know a lot of you already do this, there is some electronic timers that you can actually connect to this, and you can set it to actually water your garden at the set preferred time that you want it to be watered, whether it's early in the morning, late at night, depending on how you want it to water. That definitely is very beneficial. We've used it before. We used it in North Carolina before we got here, and it was very beneficial because we had an emergency that came through where we had to leave North Carolina and travel to Texas for about a week and a half. What we did there was we bought the electronic timer. That was a lifesaver because we were able to turn it on and just set the timer and let it go from there. And we were very comfortable knowing that our plants were getting water while we were gone for about a week and a half. Now, the one thing you want to be careful with that is maybe, you know, network with your neighbors or something like that, just in case you have a line that actually breaks. We discovered when we got back, maybe a day before we got back, one of the lines to some hanging baskets. And that was one of the other things we used drip irrigation for, was we ran some of this thin line to hanging baskets right over the top so they can get some water, because the sun was hitting those directly, so they were drying out pretty fast. And hanging baskets, as you know, you get that wind, you get that dry air coming out underneath, and it dries out these containers fast. So we put them on there and it helped tremendously. But what we discovered was that one of those lines did actually break and was spraying all over the place. And so that one basket unfortunately didn't make it quite as well as the other plants, but we were pretty comfortable knowing that everything else was doing just fine. So this is what we do. We buy some of this line here. This line is a main line. It runs to everything, and you can just punch into one of those to water all your other containers. Like I said, we had this line that was running to this container here. We had another line that was running to the rows on our side, and then it travels this way, and we have more lines running to these containers and smaller lines running to the little pots here and there. But that's it for this part. Like I said, it's easily connectable. If you want to learn more about connecting drip irrigation, I'll put the link of the video on top here where I actually set all this drip irrigation up on the slope bed as well. So let's move over to the slope bed and I'll show you exactly what we have going on there, because I do have some makeshift, well, I wouldn't call them makeshift, but it is kind of a sprinkler system that actually you can buy the adapters for this drip irrigation. Okay, so back down here at the slope bed, I'm gonna go ahead and start taking out this drip irrigation, show you guys what I was using. Actually, let me get a piece real quick, because I can easily take it off. So I have this right here, which is pretty much a sprinkler head. Now these adapters here connect to this stake system right here, and this plugs right into the drip irrigation there. Now what this does is here you can actually shut these off one at a time from there. It has a little nozzle here where you can shut that off and turn it back on as well. Now these adapters, there's many different adapters. There's a half moon, there's a full moon, there's a different type of sprinkler heads. I don't remember how many, there's quite a bit. You might want to look into those if you're trying to get some of these, but there's quite a bit of adapters you can attach to this. This is actually a sprinkler head that spreads out about 2 feet wide, so it has a great coverage amount. And I put 1, 2, 3, 4 here. Now, I used these when we had our limelight hydrangeas up here. If any of you remember, the best show we ever had of hydrangeas up here was because of this. It was the watering, because they got plenty of water, especially on this slope. They were always watered, well maintained, and they showed little to no sign of needing any water at all. The only thing we struggle with is I think they grew a little too well because they were big and fluffy. So when it rained, they kind of weighed down a little bit, but you know, that happens when you have a slope, and gravity does this thing as well. But these are very beneficial here in the front bed. Now these are connected to a drip line separate from the main line, because the line that I have here, let me see if I can get a piece here. So I don't want to do any damage to any of the plants here, but this is a brown tubing that's separate from the main line, which is black. Now this brown tubing actually has irrigation hose, and I believe it's about every, I want to say 16 inches. Don't quote me on that. Or actually 18 inches. It actually says it on here. So 18 inches. So every 18 inches you have a irrigation hole where it's going to water the ground all the way around it. So putting mulch in this bed was another thing that was very beneficial for the drip irrigation, was having mulch in this bed, because every 18 inches you knew that that mulch was getting soaked with water, and it was helping every other plant that was up there maintain some type of moisture. And then with this, you just pinch it off at the end. But I'm gonna start taking this one off. Like I said, I used those sprinkler head type irrigations. I also had individual tubes with 2 gallon per hour watering going to certain plants that needed a bit more attention. But yeah, I mean, it's easy to set up this drip irrigation. Like I said, you can see that video that I linked up. We just basically snaked it around all these plants, and that's basically what we did to keep this well maintained with water and looking just as good as it did for the last 4 years that we've been here now. Well, 3 years, because this year we haven't really done anything. We're gonna plant some stuff in there and it's gonna look great. And I do wanna mention, seeing a lot of comments there, we need to stop telling Angie to plant more plants up here, because we can't take any more. I just wanna come out and say it right now. Great comments, everybody has wonderful suggestions, wonderful comments, but if you keep suggesting more plants, Angie's gonna make me go get more plants, and we can't take any more plants. And I hate to give them away. And here comes Angie. She doesn't have a mic, so maybe, yeah. Yeah. Again, great suggestions. I mean, we would love to continue planting this bed. I'm actually gonna miss this bed up here. We're gonna miss planting it up. And yeah, Angie wants more plants. She keeps saying it back there, but I'm actually gonna miss this bed. It's great to plant up here. It's great to see what we can actually do. We've done already 3 different types of plantings up here, and they were all great, especially with those limelights. And now we got the boxes up there, and we're gonna put some other stuff there, and I'm gonna leave that for another video, which we're probably gonna do later on today. And so you'll be seeing that probably the day after this video. But can't wait to get that planted up, because we'll have something up here at least for the last month and a half or 2 that we're actually gonna be here. So I'm gonna continue to rip this drip irrigation out. And I just wanted to give you guys the benefits of why you should use drip irrigation, and not really in any order or any top 10 numbering of why you should have it. I think it's just very beneficial to have it, because you know, it helps out a lot in the garden. When you don't have time, or whether you do have time, you can have that, you know, that confidence and that comfortableness of knowing that your plants are gonna get watered and you're gonna get taken care of the best way they can. Before I close this video, I do want to mention we use all Rainbird products for our irrigation system. It's one of the best irrigation systems that I've been able to find, and they always have parts that are very compatible to each other. There's very many different adapters that you can use to connect each one. You can certainly go out and find different parts, but we do use Rainbird. You can buy that bucket on Amazon. I think I've shared it before, where it comes with a whole bunch of different parts. You can buy the main line, the main drip irrigation separately, and it just works out all that great. So that's one of the products that we are using, is Rainbird, for all our garden needs. And as a matter of fact, we're going to use it when we move to Texas, because it's going to be very beneficial. And so we're just excited to get started with the next chapter. But I'm going to go ahead and close it out, guys. I'm going to take off the rest of this irrigation, and then hopefully, you know, the next video is going to be us planting up this bed, and you get to see what we actually do. So thanks for joining us, guys. I know it wasn't any gardening, more of a you know, an educational project of what the benefits of drip irrigation are. So we'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks.